Hi everyone. Welcome to another segment of COVID Story. COVID Story is a video series where we interview young people and learn how coronavirus impacted their work, personal, and spiritual life. Today I'm joined by my good friend John.
Hi, great to meet you all.
All right, John. So I'll just start off with our first question. Um,
Yeah, Josh.
can you introduce yourself? What do you do for a living? What's your living situation? And what's your faith background if you have one?
Hi, my name is Dilip John. I'm an international student here. Uh, Came to study at Macquarie University, doing my master's in IT. So I came here last year, I think in February, and I started being an international student. So my first job, and I've been continuing on that, was a delivery driver. And I also work part time as a volunteer in the YCW. And yeah, and my living situation right now, I'm living in a rented house. And my faith background, I can say, is I'm a Protestant from the Protestant faith.
Okay, good. Um, how has coronavirus impacted you? Um, how has it changed life in both positive and negative ways?
I think life as I knew it before was going on really well. Like pre-COVID, I had a job working in a hotel as a receptionist, so everything was smooth. But when the coronavirus hit, every casual worker and the part-time worker got laid off because the entire business failed in terms of the domestic tourism and international tourism. So we got laid off our jobs, and it came as a very big surprise because I had my rent, I had my groceries, everything taken care of by the wages that was given to me by the work that I was doing. But when the coronavirus hit, everything stopped, and I had to look for another uh, viable option to support myself. And that's when I took up being a delivery driver, working as food delivery,
Mhm.
and that helped me support myself for the time being. But apart from that, things have always been rough in terms of, yeah. And even my university got affected in terms of the classes got transitioned completely online. And yeah, and there wasn't much, the quality of education in terms of how the lectures were conducted were also completely reduced.
Mm. Sounds like there were a lot more negatives than positive things for you, John. Yeah.
Yeah, Josh, that's true.
Do you feel like generally international students, um, suffered the most from the pandemic
Yes,
in
I think,
terms?
yeah, I think even an international student or a migrant or a asylum seeker are the ones who are mostly affected by the COVID because first thing, they didn't receive any support from any source of the university had support programs, but it was only very meager. It only lasted a couple of weeks or months. But yeah, apart from that, we didn't receive any support from our government back home. We couldn't fly back home in a case of emergency because all the international transit flights were cancelled at that time when the coronavirus was at its peak. It resumed later, but with a lot of conditions that once you go back, you can't come back to your Australian university, come back here and study. So many people like me just resorted to just staying here and waiting the pandemic out. I think.
Mhm. Uh, it's really hard to hear, man, because it sounds like you're cut off from your family and
Family, yeah.
community back home. Yeah. Um, I guess this next question relates to what you've just said. Are you happy with the support networks out there to assist people feeling the impact of the pandemic?
Yeah, I would. I'm really thankful for my university support team who came forward and provided me temporary loans, accommodation, and groceries on a fortnightly basis. They used to organize food runs, food
Mm-hmm.
donations, and food hampers at different Woolworths, Coles, and all that. I think that was a support network I really looked forward to. Apart from that, the government recently have introduced the emergency crisis support for the international students in terms of the homestay providers, where they will be accommodating them for a period of 3 months, and that was a really good initiative by the government. But I feel it came a bit too late
Mm,
because half of the students who were here really panicked and went back to their home countries.
of course. Um, what are your thoughts on the Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison um, in terms of what he had said when the restrictions started happening in Australia? So I think it was around March, April, where Scott Morrison announced that um, if you're an international student and you can't support yourself here in Australia, then you should perhaps look look at the option of going home. How did that make you feel when he said that?
It added on to the anxiety, and it there was a sense of fear that we are not being wanted there, and it felt like it felt very weird in terms of, yeah, we came here and we are just here for a good education and we couldn't get that, so we lost our jobs, and now the only option is the government won't support us. They're telling us to go back. I mean, that was unfair and unjust. Thinking about the amount of how much we contribute to the Australian society in terms of our university and the tax that we pay on that, which we pay thrice the more of a domestic student in terms of the fees. So it's a total of $41 billion economy that we are supporting, and the prime minister didn't care about us, and he told us to go back, and that was really hurtful in a way.
Mm, yeah, in some ways, it almost felt a bit like in my point of view, it felt a bit un-Australian
Yeah.
because you think one of the great characteristics of uh, being an Australian is that you're caring and you give people a fair go. And yeah, what Scott Morrison said in March, April wasn't giving international students a fair go.
Fair go, yes.
You
At least
also,
we didn't want the support, but at least we wanted to be acknowledged.
mm,
We didn't even have the chance, like, we just weren't acknowledged. And the first thing that the prime minister said was, if you can't support yourself, just go back. And that was unfair.
mm. You also mentioned that you're studying here in Australia. Um, when the restrictions started taking place, I would assume your classes would have been moved to the online platform. Were your school fees reduced? If
No, yeah, the school fees remained the same. In fact, it even increased by a margin of $1,000,
wow,
which was completely, well, we were all taken aback. But yeah, that was like not what we paid for. Like, if we were paying for the online classes, the fee should have been reduced by a margin of 25%. And that didn't happen, and that was another big blow to us, I guess.
um, did you find that when your classes were moved online, that affected the quality of education you were receiving?
Yes, 100%. The quality of education completely deteriorated in terms of, even in some of the lectures, the lecturers would play out recorded recorded lecture videos from past years, which was completely, unprofessional and unethical, because it wasn't even a live lecture in some units, and that was really bad because we didn't pay for a recorded session of previous years,
Mm,
but that's what happened.
yeah. And what you're paying, what, like $5,000 to $6,000 a unit
Yeah,
at uni, and you're watching a pre-recorded video. You might as well just go on YouTube and watch that video.
true that.
Oh, it's ridiculous. We covered some of this, but my next question is, how has coronavirus impacted your workplace and studies? So is there anything more that you'd like to add to that?
The workplace and the studies, yes. The workplace was completely affected in terms of there wasn't work to begin with. The entire industry that I work for, the hospitality industry, shut down, and there were a lot of restrictions. There were a lot of panic. There was a lot of fear in terms of working with the employees, like to maintain social distance, wear a mask. There was always constant, repercussions like have you done the COVID screening? Have you done this? Have you done? There's more panic, and there's more testing. But those were in terms of thinking about it rationally, the methods that were used to safeguard. But yeah, the entire workplace and even the universities. In terms of the university, the library was shut down. We only limited to two people per library. You know, a bench in the library, and yeah, we couldn't attend classrooms, or classrooms were shut. Whole classrooms and lecture halls were shut off.
Hmm. Wow.
Unbelievable.
And they
Yeah,
still increase the
tuition fees.
fees. Yeah, it's insane. Um, we know that the situation in Sydney is getting better in terms of the number of cases going down. Melbourne's cases have appeared to be dwindling as well. But what worries you about the progression of the pandemic, John?
Right now, the progression of the pandemic is somewhat uncertain. Like there has been talks about a vaccine in the future, but no official, news on it since March. I guess we haven't yet received a confirmation. So the future remains uncertain. The progression may be somewhat seeming low right now. But if we get back to a complete, removal of the restrictions and the lockdown, there is fear that the COVID pandemic might in progress much at a much more faster rate than expected.
Mhm. Um, John, you said that you were an international student. May I ask what country you came from, and how is the progression of the pandemic in your home country?
I came from India, the southern part of India called Bangalore. And right now, I think the worst affected country is India, because the progression is like 6 million cases tallied up in the entire nation, and with a lot of deaths in terms of the mortality rates is a very, very serious issue. The main reason being like the government haven't taken much adequate steps in, like, curbing uh, the pandemic. They didn't educate the public well in terms of how they brought it out in the media and stuff, and like the careless attitude of the people also got it progressing to this state, which is really, really worrying. 6 million cases, yes.
Yeah. Um, has your family been keeping safe?
Oh, yes, yes, Josh. They have been keeping safe. They have been isolating themselves. Even their work has been transitioned from face to face to online. So that's very good. Work from home scenario helps to curb the pandemic and keep them safe. So that's great. I'm grateful for that.
I'm really glad to hear that, John.
Thank
That's
you.
good news.
That's good news. Yeah.
Uh, in your opinion, in Sydney or in Parramatta, do you think there's an area of people that was overlooked by the government and other organizations? So,
I think, yeah, the primarily the people that were overlooked are like from the migrants, the temporary migrants, and the international students were completely looked over in terms of getting their support from the government, or like, uh, getting a voice for voicing their opinions in this pandemic, or getting opportunities in terms of their work, or getting the COVID grant, or like I think the main reason being is like they lost all the temporary workers here, lost the migrants and international students lost their jobs that were supporting themselves to and yeah, that's what I feel, Josh.
wow, it's really, again, it's just really, really sad to hear.
Mm.
Mm. Mm. I guess we'll try to end this interview on a positive note. What are the positives that you've seen come out of the COVID-19 pandemic?
The positives are very few, but yeah, but there were like certain positives that I can come out. The community helped the international students. Like for me, coming from the Indian background, the Indian community took initiative in providing free meals, providing temporary accommodations, and helping out those who have lost their jobs, and searching and networking and finding out reliable jobs at this moment. I think that's what it helped to build the community, and make it a strong place for all the community to come together.
Mm.
And apart from that, the government has also been sympathetic to our situation, and they have introduced programs such as temporary housing schemes for international students who lost their jobs, providing rent subsidies, and that was a really great initiative, Josh.
Mm. No, it's good. I feel like um, in the pandemic, people had to adapt, and it really gives me, it really restores my faith in humanity that, you know, even through this tough time, people have been trying to help one another out.
True, true that.
Well, I guess that's the end of the interview. John, thank you so much for your time.
Hi, I'm Thomas.
And I'm Josh.
Thanks for watching the video. Hope you can give it a like and share it around.
See you guys next time.